The following may contain offensive language, adult humor, and or content that some viewers may find offensive. The views and opinions expressed by any one speaker does not explicitly or necessarily reflect or represent those of Mark Radulich or W2M Network. Please listen with caution, or don't listen at all.
Valley, hooey Hollywood, where any office boy or young mechanic can be a panic with just a good-looking fan. And any barmaid can be a star maid if she dances with or without a plan. Hooray for Hollywood, where you're terrific if you're even good. Where anyone at all from Shirley Temple to Amy Semple is equally understood. Go out and try your luck. You may be gone or luck. Hooray for Hollywood.
Ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, children of all ages, you belong up here. You are listening. You are listening to a Radulich and Broadcasting premiere podcast. Damn you, Hollywood! And here's Grumpy Gus, Robert Winfree. Yay!
I don't know. I don't feel all that grumpy, but if Mark chooses to deem me as such, I'll take it today.
2 seconds ago. Hey, would you please take an interest in this podcast? No, I won't.
I'm very interested in the podcast. I'm not interested in your segments about TikTok.
Well, I'm not interested in your concept of backlighting. You look like frickin' J.J. Abrams.
I can't do anything about it. Sorry.
You can tilt the blinds.
And the girl in
tilted.
between Robert and I who can't stay on topic is Alexis Hejna. How do you do? Slappy squirrel?
I wish I was as funny as Slappy Squirrel.
That's comedy, baby. Robert, what are we talking about tonight?
Okay, so Yakko, Wacko, and Dot have assembled, and we're going to be talking about Abigail.
Wait, which one do you use, Yakko? Which one do you use, Wacko?
Well, I'm definitely Yakko.
No.
How
I'm
am I Wacko?
Because you're the one most likely to stick your finger in a light socket.
I mean, that's true, but, you know, I've assembled this all here. I'm like the leader of the band.
There's no leader. You misunderstand. Yakko has the gift of gab.
Uh-huh.
That's all he's got. And I'm the one with the vocabulary. So that's why I'm Yakko.
You have all the best words, Don.
I don't appreciate that reference, but and again, for the record, those blinds are tilted. This wall faces due east. So until what I need to do is go buy.
I'm already bored.
Blackout cloths. Well, okay, mister, please, what do we do for TikTok? And now I'm bored.
Yes, concentrate on the thing that's important to me. I don't give a shit about anything else.
So tonight we are talking about the horror comedy quasi-action / action, loosely / action there, movie Abigail.
Yes, Abigail.
Tell us about the movie, Mark.
I will. Abigail is a 2024 American vampire horror comedy and other genres as well. Film directed by Matt Bettinelli-Olpin and Tyler Gillett, from a screenplay written by Stephen Shields and Guy Busick. Based on and a reimagining of the 1936 Universal classic monster film, Dracula's Daughter. The film stars Alisha Weir as the eponymous daughter of Count Dracula, alongside Melissa Barrera, Dan Stevens, Kathryn Newton, Will Catlett, Kevin Durand, Angus Cloud, and Giancarlo Esposito.
Giancarlo Esposito is officially the only human being on the planet who's actually less scary once he becomes a vampire.
True.
He's actually also seems to be taking over the role Samuel L. Jackson left behind, of willing to take any role everywhere all the time. Abigail had its world premiere at the Overlook Film Festival on April 7, 2024, and was theatrically released in the U.S. and Universal Pictures on April 19, 2024. It has received generally positive reviews from critics and grossed. Well, we'll talk about that later. All right. So we were talking before the show started, rather frustratingly. Thanks, I got your message. This film stars Melissa Barrera. She was in the new soft reboots of the Scream movies. And I was thinking about this as I was watching the movie and afterwards. about, who is the modern scream queen? Something it's a title associated with Jamie Lee Curtis. Final girl, however you want to look at it. Who is the it girl in horror right now? So I was thinking about this movie. I was thinking about Scream, and I thought, is it Melissa Barrera? And when I pitched it to these two, Robert went, I don't care, and Alexis said, hey, I have a different idea. And I went, no, everyone focus. So what do you guys think about the new modern Scream Queen / Final Girl? I'll go to you first, Alexis.
I would actually put my vote in for Jenna Ortega. Also in the previous two Scream movies, cast Wednesday, in the upcoming Beetlejuice sequel, and she was an X.
She was an
X. She's got decent, just as many horror films, if not more. And I think she's becoming a little more iconic amongst horror fans. And I think her portrayal of as Wednesday in the Netflix series has kind of boosted that. I think she has more it girl power than Melissa Barrera does. So I think she fits more as the reigning Scream Queen. Although, let's face it, Mia Goth is the real Scream Queen right now.
That was going to be my contribution to this is, if I'm going to pick someone who's the Scream Queen in the sense that not only plays both victim and can do the turn and actually be the killer, Mia Goth is kind of the top of the heap at the moment for that.
I love Mia Goth and everything about her, and I can't wait to see Maxine, and it pains me deeply that we're probably not going to review it on here. I mean, we're going to have to go to movies that don't suck or some that do, or do it as part of a triple feature or some shit. But it really bothers me that we're not going to probably get to that on the schedule. But I
Who do we blame for that, Mark?
I gotta look and see when it comes out again, but I feel like it was just a cramped schedule. That's the reason why I didn't even try. I think it was that. Plus, I didn't think you'd be into it, so I didn't want to approach you about it.
I saw a trailer for it, and
is it not right up my alley?
It's very much up your alley, yes.
Yeah,
almost comically so.
Yeah, it was like somebody reached inside my brain and hey, it's his birthday in June. Let's make a movie that's just for Mark Radulich, and it'll
be gritty. It'll feature a lot of sex. It'll be set in the 80s. It'll be in California. It's all the only thing missing from this that would really make it just perfectly you is a lot of black people.
I was gonna say, is a homosexual black guy with a shotgun shooting drug dealers. If not, put that in there, and then you've just made my movie. I can walk into the woods to live deliberately. But yeah,
it is a Key West film by the same director who did X and Pearl.
It's more or less a sequel to X.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So anyway, my problem with Mia Goth in this part of the discussion is she hasn't done anything that that anyone's seen besides me.
Well, look, she hasn't done anything nearly as mainstream as what Jenna Ortega has, and that's true. But I don't care about if we're talking about who's the best in that, in sort of that role in general. Then box office acclaim means nothing to me.
There's an argument against that, and I'll tell you who. I will tell you where I drew that argument from. There was a book I read years ago about the best Chinese food places in America, and there was a book about this, and it was the history of American Chinese food, where the best places were, all that kind of stuff. That was the sort of nonfiction I used to read when books weren't for burning, and
back before you were cold and the wolves were after you.
That's correct. Back when I was young and the world was new. And one of the things that they said right at the beginning was I'm not counting places that are, in a basement somewhere in the Bronx behind the door that says beware of the leopard. If no one's eaten there, if no one knows of it, it doesn't count for this purposes of this book. So I look at Jamie Lee Curtis, who was the reigning, longtime final girl / Scream Queen, and said that the stuff she was in people saw. And again, I go back to, I love Mia Goth and I love everything that she's done. And I've seen X and I've seen Pearl and I'm going to see Maxine. And whatever one that came out last year that was weirder than fuck that only Chris Owen saw and liked.
The Cronenberg film?
Yeah, I think so.
Infinity Pool.
That's the one.
Boy, is that one weird.
I can't sit through Cronenberg films. I can't.
You know what? I'm glad you reminded me of this Cronenberg because I want to do a triple feature of, and I might have to throw that
hang on. Which Cronenberg is that? That's his kid, not David, right?
Oh, damn it.
Hang on. I'll look it up.
I was feel just like that's right, but
I was
could be
just
wrong.
looking up Mia Goth to get some info on her. She was also in Surpresa, Suspiria. How
The
you
remake of Suspiria, yeah.
Yeah, and A Cure for Wellness.
Right. Again, nothing anyone's seen. So while I appreciate the argument of
Brandon Cronenberg.
Damn it. I appreciate the argument that Mia Goth.
So when you do the nepotism triple feature, it's right there.
Cool. Thanks. Always appreciate.
Well, wait. If we're doing the nepotism, then it needs to be that, and then it needs to be The Watcher, so you could talk about M. Night Shyamalan's kid directing the movie. But what's the third? But we got to find a third one.
No, we don't. And I would rather throw myself in front of a fucking train than talk about anything Shyamalan.
I guess we're not reviewing Trap.
No, we are, but only because it's the new. It's M. Night Shyamalan, not his goddamn kid. I'm not reviewing that one. But that movie looks creepy as fuck, by the way.
Watchers or Trap?
Watchers.
Just released a new trailer for that today.
It's
weird.
I got that one in front of Abigail.
Same. So I think I'd seen that trailer before, but yeah.
So just kind of getting through this. When I compare Melissa Barrera, Jenny Ortega, and Mia Goth, I would say Mia Goth's the more talented out of the three of them, but the one that's got the most exposure and the one that if you took a panel of 10 normies, they'd probably say Jenna Ortega. Though I would tell you, and we'll get to it when we get to the actual review in just a minute, but I think Melissa Barrera actually turns in a really, really good job of being that final girl here and kind of hitting all the marks and tropes and beats that your final girl should hit. What do you think, Robert?
Yeah, I don't disagree. I acknowledge that Jenna Ortega is again much more popular, but I don't know. Nothing she's done has ever resonated with me, and by my own admission, I haven't seen everything she's done, so this is not final judgment or anything. But
you didn't watch Wednesday, right?
Nope, not interested.
Yeah, I second that emotion. Did you see X?
Yes, but it's been a while and it didn't stick with me.
My problem with Jenna Ortega in X is that, one, did she fucking even make it to the end? I don't remember.
I told you it didn't stick with me.
And I know I was for once in the entire history of the show, I was asking Alexis.
I actually have never seen it. Andre downloaded it and I keep forgetting, oh, that's right, we have it. I should freaking watch. It's one of those, it's on the perpetual to-do list.
Oh, yeah. I would. So real quick, Sean and I did a triple feature of porn movies. It was X, Red Rocket, and Boogie Nights, which it generated a great discussion between me and Sean about sex and age, about any number of things. And I threw that all up on TikTok. I was really proud of that conversation that we had. X was one of my favorite movies of that year. Here's my problem relative to this discussion. Jenna Ortega is not the most outstanding part of that movie.
No, she isn't.
I think it's also worth pointing out the whole idea of the final girl. I mean, in the late 90s, Neve Campbell was called the new Scream Queen. And was she in any horror movies besides the Scream franchise?
Yes, but I can't remember its name. She did a couple of things.
She wasn't in I Know What You Did Last Summer. That was the other broad
Jennifer Love Hewitt.
That's Jennifer Love Hewitt, yeah.
And weren't they both in Party of Five?
Yes.
Okay.
They were desperate to get out of television, so they did the horror movies. Then which of course put Jennifer Love Hewitt back into television, and a Ghost Whisperer knockoff that ran forever on the CW.
That sounds terrible.
That was Ghost Whisperer.
It was Ghost Whisperer, right? It was just what it was called.
It's there wasn't a knockoff of Ghost Whisperer.
No,
it was Ghost Whisperer.
It was. I can never remember that. I always think it's got a different title than that movie does. That show did. I'm
just saying the whole idea of who's the best Scream Queen or who's the it girl Scream Queen does not always equal the amount of appearances and presence in horror movies. It usually just equals more of a who is really big in pop culture horror right now.
So yeah, hang on.
There's not really a hard and fast criteria for it.
Which takes us back to Melissa Barrera, which is why I was like, hey, so real quick. So here's what she's done since 2021. She was in The Heights, decidedly not a horror movie. All the World is shut up. All the World is Sleeping, which is a drama. She was in Scream, so there's one. Carmen, another musical drama. Bed Rest. This looks like a horror movie. Yep. Scream 6, Your Monster, another horror, and then now Abigail. So of the last 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 movies she did before Abigail. She was in 1, 2, 3. I mean,
hey, you really want to talk about it girls in these films? I would also argue Samara Weaving.
Who?
More work. Don't worry
Lead
about
from
it.
Ready or Not.
Nah.
Oh, she absolutely could be. But
dude, it took me a minute to remember who the hell she was. Like,
that's because you're you.
No, no, because again, part of this argument incorporates who is more present in the genre and what else has Samara Weaving done besides Ready or Not.
Hang on a second. She was the first person killed in the last Scream movie. Directors put her in as an Easter egg.
Yeah, but they'd be like saying Drew Barrymore was the new Scream queen because she was the first person killed in Scream.
All right, hang on.
Well, Alexis looks that up.
Yeah, round us out here so we can move on.
Just briefly around Barrera, I think what she really needs is to find a project that is. I'm going to throw out a reference, and I don't mean that she needs a movie of this quality, but she needs to find an Aliens. Because she's really in the Sigourney Weaver Ripley in Aliens kind of. I think that works for her better than being.
I was going to say, yeah, she's like the best parts of Sigourney Weaver and the best parts of Vasquez. Could you imagine?
Here's why Samara Weaving was. Everyone was calling her Scream Queen. She was also the lead in the Babysitter movies.
That's right. That was it. Which Mark wouldn't have seen, but don't worry about it.
Okay.
Yeah, I was trying to remember. Like, I know she did something else besides Ready or Not in the last Scream movie. It's like, what else did she? It's like she was in something else big horror related.
Netflix movies. Yeah.
All right. Wait, no, we're not talking about those the triple feature that me and Sean did. The R.L. Stein.
No. That's Fear Street.
Okay. This was different. All right.
But point being about Barrera, like she does well when she gets drenched in blood.
I was gonna say we're gonna get to it when we get to the review, but like they were going all Evil Dead by the end of this movie. I thought she looked great. This is such a weird thing to say. We really should move on after this because it's not gonna get any better than what I'm about to say. Melissa Barrera just looks wonderful, drenched and caked in blood.
The directors actually issued an apology to the cast about how much blood they had to draw. They're like, we know our movies tend to get bloody, but this is a little much for us, and this is much even for us, and we're sorry.
Did they not see who What's Her Nuts looked like at the end of Evil Dead Rise, where she looked like?
Again, I keep going back to the way Samara Weaving looked at the end of Ready or Not. I mean, literally, when Melissa Barrera walks out at the end of this movie. I'm sorry, guys. When Melissa Barrera walked out at the end of this movie, I'm like, oh, look, another final girl walks out of a giant mansion and is completely covered in blood.
Before you,
it's the end of Ready or Not again.
I'm going to give you the last word, then you're going into your plot synopsis. But you just imagine like an Avengers kind of thing where they're just like the chick from Evil Dead Rise, Melissa Barrera, Samara Weaving. They all just like walked out caked in blood. It'd be great. Like what a women get it done moment.
We should be building to that for the record. But look,
only if Samara Weaving is still wearing the bridal gown.
Yes, go Robert.
All of them we need to do these movies for we need like 2 more of these movies, and then the team up that is all of them after exiting their horrible experiences, and they're all just covered in blood and just like walk into the same survivor support group, still caked in blood. And look, man, if Bruce Campbell doesn't get an apology for a fire hose to the face of blood from Sam Raimi more than once, all these people can you're actors. Shut up and deal with it. This is not unreasonable.
I got you, baby. All y'all can shut the fuck up. Speaking of shut the fuck up, go ahead,
There's
Robert.
a difference. Bruce Campbell and Sam Raimi were good friends to the point that in Evil Dead 3, that was Sam Raimi tossing dirt on Bruce Campbell when his headless corpse was supposed to be in the grave.
After you take someone's hose to the face, you'll be good friends with them too. Go, Robert, before I make another innuendo.
Innuendo.
Had
to throw one in there. Okay, so Abigail is very much in the same vein as Ready or Not. If you've seen that movie, and if you haven't, go watch it. It's very good. We were all very positive on it. We open with our cast of red shirts.
They're higher than 2 of them are red shirts. The rest are higher than that.
I'd
let
say
him
3.
let him go. I want to get to the review. Go.
So our team of people who are hired to abduct a little girl, allegedly for ransom. So we get them abducting her out of her room. She gets drugged. They escape from this very wealthy person's mansion. They go to their hideaway where they meet Giancarlo Esposito, who reminds them of the rules. No one tell anything. Don't tell anybody about yourselves, and don't tell personal stories.
No real names.
Yeah, and give me your
eat
cell
after
phones.
Don't eat after midnight.
And
Keep
whatever
the,
you
what
do-
was like keep the grab ass to a minimum.
That was a thing said, and don't get it wet. And don't, whatever you do, don't get the mogwai wet.
Don't talk about Fight Club.
Well, you talk about Fight Club all the time.
Bar and fridge are fully stocked. Clean sheets are in the bed.
And give me your cell phones, because we have to do this every time now.
Yep.
Sorry, that's a general gripe I have with horror at the moment, because you gotta address it somehow. But
well, they don't. He wants to make sure they're not being tracked. From a story perspective, it makes sense.
like this is one of the slightly better iterations of we set a movie in the modern world, set a horror movie in the modern world, and hey, why don't people use cell phones?
Yes, at least this one wasn't at the black hole the end of time where there is no signal. Keep going.
Yeah, no kidding.
Yeah. So they lock the girl in an upstairs room. They all start getting drunk, and Melissa Barrera shows off her skill as I know everything about all of you. So we get loose backstories for everybody here. We got the former cop who's now kind of in charge of this stuff. We have I'm going to make MMA references for two of these characters. And you're just going to have to.
I was going to say we have the.
No, stop. Go ahead. What references are you going to do?
No, just I'll get there. And Mark might laugh at this, but I think he's probably the only one. We have the former Marine, because there's always a former Marine in these things. We have the girl for money with daddy issues, who's totally alternative in the most conformist way possible. Then we have very large George St. Pierre. And Nate Diaz.
Yeah. Okay.
And once again, these make perfect sense if you know the references, because our drive man talks exactly like one of the Diaz brothers and smokes about as much. And our big piece of muscle is in this movie from Quebec, like George, and has an accent very similar to George St. Pierre. So that's where my head went.
Yeah, he definitely looks like George St. Pierre took the super soldier serum.
Little bit.
You know, I feel so bad though, because the guy who plays the driver, Angus Cloud, passed away in last year, drug overdose. The movie is dedicated to his memory. I thought it was 2023.
I think it was 22. Hang on.
Well, either way, the movie's dedicated to his memory. I didn't know that. So watching him prank Sammy in that scene, I was literally going, please first to die, please first to die, please first to die. And then I saw the end, I'm like, ah, shit.
He was. Yeah,
like,
22.
Now I feel bad. Okay, I was wrong.
That's all right. And yeah, you know, mumble mouth. I'm from Southern California, and I listen to all the rap music, and I talk like this, and I don't want me out talking to these motherfuckers. You'll go square off with yourself, man. I'll see you in the ring.
1-0, Mumblepeg.
Yeah. So this is our group of meat sacks, and the first thing that happens is they all get names because we have to have something to call them. So Giancarlo Esposito, who is was it Lambert, names them all after members of the Rat Pack.
What a timely reference, by the way. I had to explain who my kid who the fucking Rat Pack was.
I know. So we have, it's not Boomhauer. My Diaz is off. It's not quite my Boomhauer impression, my brother. So we have Frank, Dean, Sammy,
Peter, Joey,
and Mr. Rickles.
After Don Rickles, yeah.
So again, this is our group of people, and the only ones you really have to remember are that Melissa Barrera is Joey. Our obvious heel turn comes from Frank, and everyone else is just whatever.
Yeah.
So Joey is our designated point of contact with the little girl. So only one voice, and she gets conned into taking the blindfold off. Never take the blindfold off or put a hood on afterwards. If you do, you still gotta preserve your anonymity. And puts the handcuffs in front of them, which is another thing you should never do, but that's a whole other thing. And slowly some stuff starts happening, including Mumbles getting violently decapitated. And they all get together and go, oh boy, something's weird here. This shouldn't be happening.
And we hear that story about this crime lord having some kind of creature at
Well,
his beck and call.
That happens. Does that happen? Sorry,
it happens after Dean Mumbles/Dean dies because they find out that
in the wake of his dying, Frank goes up and tells the little girl, "Who's your father?" And he puts a gun to her head, and she gives the name of this lethal underworld figure that is basically this mythical antichrist kind of thing. So it
was
Kaiser
very much
Soze.
Oh fuck! You beat me to it. Yeah, it was a very Kaiser Soze moment. There's another one that was another thing that was like that, where it was a whole thing about, it was like the most evil crime. Oh god, I can't remember. It was like Desperado or something else, where it was like he's gonna kill you, that part of your family, and that part of your family, and that part of your family, and just on and on and on.
That would have been either Desperado or Once Upon a Time in Mexico. Would have both kind of
good. Glad you remembered.
Poked into those. So Frank decides he wants to try and leave, because I'm not messing with this guy. But he gets talked back into staying because now that Mumbles the clown is dead, there's more money to go around. So okay, we get through the next 20 hours, and then we get paid and we're good.
Wait, doesn't he stay because the gates came down?
No, gates come down after we see the gates come down when the Marine tries to leave.
Yeah.
And opens the door, and hey, we're locked in, and then everything else shuts down, and now we can't get out. So what's going on? And hey, there's rumors of this hitman who's like, we'll kill you on the top of a high rise. No one will know how he got in. And then the Marine dies, and
literally blink and you miss it attack. It's kind of surreal.
And everyone's kind of at each other's throats now, but like the girl must know something, so stick the muscle on the girl. So we all go up there and now the girl, Abigail, reveals that she's a vampire, and she easily gets out of her bonds, starts chasing them, and now we're just trying to play hide and seek with the vampire.
So moving forward, like rapid fire.
They try to figure out, okay, how do we kill the vampire? And, well, which kind of vampire are we dealing with? Because that's... I actually got a laugh out of that because, well, is this an Anne Rice vampire? Is this a 30 Days of Night vampire? Is this a
Twilight vampire?
Yeah, is a Stephanie Meyer vampire?
Because these all follow different rules, believe it or not.
Yep.
Yeah, I love it. It's like, what do we know? Well, they could turn into bats, or they could, they could fly.
Right, since we're going to take 20 minutes to interrupt the plot synopsis, the funniest line of this whole fucking thing is when Kathryn Newton walks out with a bag, and Stevens is like, those are onions.
Fucking onions.
Those are fucking onions.
Because it was one of the I personally identified with this. Like, he's just frustrated with everybody. He's about ready to pull what's left of his hair out, and she walks out proud as punch, and she found the garlic. And mid rant, he just looks at her and goes, "And those are fucking onions."
I knew that she was going to do that because when you go to the kitchen with Dean, the onions are sitting in the bowl on the fucking prep table.
And
so when she went, I was like,
she's going to. She saw.
Yeah, it's like I fucking knew it. I knew she was going to do that.
I laughed a lot during this movie, but that probably got the biggest laugh out of me because boy, have I been Dan Stevens in that moment. I start screaming at you people. Those are fucking onions. You'll know why.
Yeah, he sold the heck out of that. I give him a lot of credit for the delivery of that line.
It's definitely a departure from the last time we saw him in Godzilla X Kong.
Keep going, Robert.
That's true. When he was just Winky Solo.
Winky Solo. I want to be mad at you right now, but that's funny.
So they go try to kill Abigail. This goes poorly. She easily shrugs off all of their poorly understood folklore. Crosses don't do anything. The garlic doesn't do anything. They try to stake her with a pool cue, and she takes it away from one of the guys and stabs Dan Stevens through the leg. They all then limp back to the main room, licking their wounds.
Yeah.
Yeah, what is this? Like, don't you dare say I told you so.
Yes. So at that point they decide, okay, we've got another dose of this drug that legitimately knocked her out, so we can do that, and then we'll try something else. So they come up with a plan. They try to lure her out into the open where they can drug her, and Sammy falls into your corpse hole like you do. They eventually do drug her. They lock her in a metal elevator. and she tries to make offers about let me out and I'll let a couple of you live, and there's theoretically tension there, and there's not really tension there. She escapes and bites Sammy at some point along the way.
She bites Sammy before she gets drugged.
Yeah, and then puppets her as a thrall, kills George St. Pierre, threatens everyone else, can't quite kill them, but is then killed with reflective sunlight in our first giant explosion of gore.
Yeah, apparently just a little sunlight and vampires go kablooey.
I assume thralls are weaker. I don't know why, but I just do.
Doesn't matter. She blows up. Keep going.
She blows up. Leaving us with just Sammy and Frank. Or sorry, not Frank, but leaving us with just Joey and Frank. And they wind up going through a secret entrance, and they find Giancarlo Esposito, and he chokes out Melissa Barrera while offering Frank a job. Basically, look, I'll turn you into a vampire. We can kill her. We can kill Lazar when he shows up, because I've been working with them for a while, and now I've called him, and then the CIA shows up, and that's when things get really complicated. But Frank, who's been a morally dubious individual this entire time, at some point we also revealed that all of these people have individually screwed over the Lazar crime syndicate some way, and now they're all here because this is what Abigail does to please her father. She violently murders people.
Yeah, there was no ransom. Lambert purposely picked them out, called them for Abigail to kill them.
Yeah,
it's very much child's attention-seeking behavior. When you neglect your children, they just start killing people for you.
I'll leave that one for the visual viewers.
I was gonna say, is that what your therapist told you? Because I got a different story.
No idea what you're talking about. Keep going.
So again, it's down to so now Frank's a vampire. He stakes Giancarlo Esposito through the heart, who then explodes, because whenever you kill a vampire in these movies, they explode in blood. Which is why I think this is in the same universe as Ready or Not, because anytime anything supernatural dies, giant explosion of blood. And I'm down for that being the unifying theory of this world, by the way. We're all just bags of blood with a big squib right about here, and if you hit it, boom.
Big squibs, nothing. We are walking squibs.
So Frank then starts menacing Joey. Abigail shows back up, and the two of them fight him, and there's some brawling, there's some stuff, and then he eventually gets stabbed. He blows up, because that's what you do. And Abigail looks over at Joey and is like, I suppose I can let you go at this point. And then her dad shows up, and there's a bit of and then she no, please, Dad, don't step on the puppy. It's my favorite puppy in the world right now. And he goes, fine, but I spoil you. And they shoo Joey out, and she climbs into the van that they all arrived in, and covered in blood, drives off to go meet up with Samara Weaving in the bloody wedding dress. And whatever this guy does next, that will have a similar survivor, just 1,000-yard stare, slowly walking into the distance, caked in blood, just drenched in it.
So I took
the lollipop.
Because she's a drug addict. So I took my kids and my girlfriend to go see this, and my girlfriend was like, "It's fine." My kids had two wildly different reactions to the movie, which I thought were funny. My daughter, who is very much becoming a fan of the horror genre, doesn't particularly enjoy sex and romance on screen, but the more people caked in blood and blowing up, the better, and definitely appreciated the dichotomy, the contrast between a pretty princess ballerina and man killing vampire beast thing, and she was like, that's a pretty fun combination. She loved it. She was having a ball. Also, she's of the Ronnie Alexis camp of just wants to enjoy the movie, wants to be part of the experience, and isn't thinking too hard about this sort of thing. And she thought it was fantastic. Just absolutely loved it. Then there's my son in the Robert and Mark camp of has to think his way through these movies and deconstruct them as he's watching them. And he looks at me and he goes, "This was the most okayest movie of the year so far." And I like that he used the word okayest.
Appropriate use of the word.
Yeah, he was like, what do you old men say, mid? This was just meh. He had a good time with it, but he was like, it's nothing special, and they're both right. So with that said, I'm gonna let Alexis go first, and then I'll go into my craft review. Go ahead, Alexis.
Okay, so I will say that when you look at the rest of the films done by this team, I did enjoy this more than the 2 Scream films. I did not enjoy it more than Ready or Not, but I still really had a good time. This is a really good horror comedy. All props right now are going to Alisha Weir as Abigail. She was amazing in this. For how old is this kid? She is
in universe
14.
In
she's
universe
14.
12, so she's 4. She just looks younger than she is.
Yeah, no, the actress is 14, and you have to get her being this scared little girl, this terrifying monster, this playful.
One sec. Apparently, she was Matilda in Matilda the musical from 2022, and apparently she was phenomenal in that. Like, she's getting a lot of praise.
Okay. I also give a lot of credit that we have a ton of practical effects in this. There is, I don't even think I can remember any scenes that were specifically CGI, aside from bodies exploding or something like that. You know, you had this incredible scene of her literally like ballet dancing on a stair rail, handrail. Banister, yeah. And it's all practical. It looks great. Admittedly, I kind of had the whole thing figured out that Lambert brought them there to die from the trailer, actually, because I was sitting there going, why else would he have picked a house that locks up?
Yeah.
You know, I was saying, unless there's some other twist to that, he's in on this. I actually was thinking at first, like, oh, please don't come down to she kills all of them, and then Lambert opens the door in the morning, and he's just like, how did you enjoy your meal or something? Like he was her butler or something. I was like, oh, thank God they didn't go in that route. I still stand by what I said, that Giancarlo Esposito actually looks less scary when he's a vampire. He looks just scary enough as a human, in my opinion. Loved all of the actors in this. Dan Stevens is quickly becoming one of my absolute favorite actors. He is just
100% agree with you there. I loved him in this.
Like I said, I've seen him in a bunch of different stuff, and he plays a different character in every single one of them. This is the guy who played the live-action Beast in Beauty and the Beast.
He's like an actor's actor. Like, he's a guy who can play something besides himself in different costumes. Like, he's really good at creating a character, fleshing it, like, to the point that I didn't realize it was Dan Stevens until I saw the credits. I'm like, holy shit, he's in this?
Yeah, I didn't realize that was him when I saw the trailer. With the hair slicked back and the glasses,
right.
I didn't realize that was him.
Yeah, he really disappears into that character.
Yeah. Kathryn Newton, I thought, was really good. We've been seeing a lot out of her. And frankly, she has shown a lot of growth, especially since Ant-Man and the Wasp: Quantumania, which I thought she was pretty...
I know you're not saying this, but in defense of Kathryn Newton, it's not fair to judge her acting based on that movie. I think she was just in Lisa Frankenstein, wasn't she?
Yeah.
Yeah, she's great. And I think when she's given good material, she rises to the occasion. When she's given, a ham sandwich that's left out in the sun that was Ant-Man and the Wasp, that's what she goes to.
Well, look, here's the other thing we're going to throw under the bus. If we're going to throw something under the bus about Quantumania, the director and the editor are the ones who really dropped the ball there.
Right, but she's a better actor. I mean, she's been made out to be because of that.
You know what kills me about this one? I was waiting for her to do the stupid run that she does in Ant-Man and the Wasp. And she runs like a normal person in this. Like, so what happened there?
Yeah.
Makes it even more baffling that was deemed acceptable.
I was happy to see Kevin Durand in this. He plays Peter, the big French Quebec, the GSP character, as you put it. He's been in a ton of movies.
He's Quebecois.
I've seen him in a ton of movies, and I adore him in every single one of them. I think my favorite was he was in 3:10 to Yuma, and he just plays this like psychopathic character who you are more than happy to see die, but he was so good in it. And he and Kathryn Newton build up this great repertoire, and you just love seeing this friendship between them. It's so sweet, and you genuinely feel bad when Sammy gets possessed and kills him. You know, all of these actors brought so much. They all had so much chemistry, admittedly, except for Angus Cloud, but I can't speak ill of the dead.
Oh, I can.
Yeah, I'm sorry.
In fairness to him, he doesn't have a lot of chemistry there. I think that's deliberate. Like, he is
it's not just that. I don't know why they hired somebody who, okay, I get the idea that he's probably a sociopath, probably a drug addict, probably has done some really stupid shit.
Well,
but why
also...
would you get an actor that sounds like he's done that much stupid
I don't know.
shit?
It sounds like the direction was, can you do Taylor Kitsch from X-Men Orange's Wolverine? And he's like, Hawkins Rock, he's on.
No, he's not doing a bad Cajun accent. I told you this. He's doing, for want of a better expression, he's doing a Diaz brother impression. Go listen to him.
No, I get it.
Listen to one of the Diaz brothers. Well, hang on. I bring that up because that's not bad Cajun. That's like Stockton, California. You get these people who've been hit in the head a lot. And his character has this giant scar around the back of his head.
Yeah,
Clearly
I thought that was
going
to come into play about something. Yeah, I mean, he's supposed to be a smart guy.
He sounds like a guy who's recovering from a stroke.
And he's supposed to be a smart guy. The scene where they're like, okay, you have to turn here to avoid the cameras, but he manages to get their car behind the truck. So they avoid the cameras. I'm like, shit, that was actually really clever. But then he comes across as just like the dumbest idiot on the planet. I'm like, well, what is he?
So I was getting a lot of Reservoir Dogs vibes from the first quarter of this movie, first third, and just because you're good at your job doesn't necessarily make you smart. You're just smart at your job. His job is to be the wheelman. So yes, he did a good wheelman job, but once the wheelmanning was over, he was kind of useless, and they telegraphed him dying way early on. And it was like, and just in case you as an audience member got way too attached to him, they made him utterly unlikable, so that when he died. So this is one of my problems with the craft of this movie is like, so when he dies, you're just like, good. And then that's my problem with the horror genre in many ways, is they keep doing this, is they make so many of the people that are going to die in these movies so utterly unlikable. So when it happens, you're like, good. You're like, I hate cheering for the monster, but that seems to be the approach of modern horror now. It's cheer for the monster, but also cheer because Jesus Christ, this becomes like fucking Hogan and the Warrior. Like, cheer for the monster, but also cheer for the baby face. We want you to like both, because we want the baby face to win, but we want the monster to do more movies. It's like, fuck me in the goat ass.
I think you've just described 3 out of the 5 Final Destination movies.
I've described a lot of things.
You just described like the landscape of modern cinema in a nutshell, and I appreciate
everyone gets a participation trophy, and nobody is disliked or bullied, and it's like, Jesus Christ. I don't want to go over on a rant here. Hi, Dennis Miller. But at some point, can we get back to good guys and bad guys? Because it was a perfectly good movie structure that worked for eons and made lots of money. We seem to have abandoned it for cheer for everybody. Nobody gets disliked. All right. Rant over. Go ahead, Alexis. Finish up.
Again, I really, really had fun with this movie. It's a good horror comedy. I've always been a fan of those. I think that's one of my favorite genres of horror, because I love a good director who can actually balance out the scares with the laughs like this.
Mm-hmm.
And yeah, I will say this, like, I know the directors joked about the copious amounts of blood, but yeah, I think by the time Dan Stevens is profusely vomiting blood to the point they actually include a blood on the camera moment.
Yeah.
I think even by then I was like, good Lord, guys, haven't you ever heard of the phrase less is more? But you know what? It works.
Sometimes more is more.
Yeah, I was okay with the excessive use of blood. I think the movie needed it.
Yeah.
So my good, the bad, and the ugly. Good. I laughed. Like, I had to double check the genre because, like, was this supposed to be funny? Oh, good, it is, because it's, horror comedy. Because I laughed my ass off during this. And I at times I was the only one laughing in the theater. I laughed hard. I laughed a lot, because for me, this movie wasn't scary. The only moment that I had where Robert, is just licking his lips and biting and, chomping at the bit. It's like, I gotta make fun of Mark. I gotta call Mark out on something. Like he's got his pants off, he's got his hand on his penis. He's like, come on, give me something to make fun of. Here it is. Here it is, big boy. When Kathryn Newton falls into the grave pit,
it's a pool. It was literally a pool.
Yeah, full of dead bodies. So my daughter, in that moment, she just looked at me. She's like, "What? Second movie in a row with a mass grave? What the fuck?" And I'm like, "I get it, Lily." And she still says that the one in Civil War was worse, which it was.
Well, that one's designed to be terrifying by its entire setup. This is designed to be funny.
And gross.
It was funny, but this was the only moment that I got grossed out by, because the rest of it, the rest of it was fine. But I got grossed out in that moment, and not necessarily because she's just covered in fucking poop and dead bodies, because who hasn't been? You know, the places I hang out in. But it was the ADRing of like the flies buzzing around. Again, if you've ever been around, like if you have a dog, you've had to clean up poop. If you've ever had to like deal with poop that's been around for a minute or been out in the hot sun, oi, and the amount of pestilence it attracts. Like that, for whatever reason, like they did a good job with the ADR right there, because that sound got to me in a hurry, and I had to turn. It was weird because because it had been silent, I could have lived with or like processed that moment as, okay, she's just in dirt, water, and dead bodies. Gross. But I could have watched it with it fine. The adding of the sound there, and this is a crafting, that's why I'm beating it to death, made that seem grosser than it really was. And it definitely had like a full sensory body thing on me where I was like, whoa, I can't watch this.
I got a kick out of after she climbs out, and I'm more worried about the pool of dead bodies. Well, okay, how many dead bodies we're talking about? Like 2, 3, and her response is just scream.
Yeah, it was good.
Just realized again, ready or not, the main character, the lead, falls into the pit of bodies. We're getting a lot of parallels between those two movies.
There are no
starting
new
to wonder
ideas
if
in
this
Hollywood.
director's a little bit of a one-trick pony. But
again, I was getting Reservoir Dog vibes from the beginning of it, which is both good and bad. You know, if you're going to do a scene where everyone gets a crime name, and again, I say this because I had to explain it to 2 children, and it's like, well, don't bring children to this thing. They're 13, for fuck's sake. I don't want to hear an argument about what horror movie I brought them to, considering the kind of shit I watched as when I was their age or younger. So my point being is, like, when you're going to give crime names to people, the reason why it works in Reservoir Dogs is he just gives everyone a color. That's timeless. You're never gonna hear like, I don't understand the reference to Mr. White. No, it's just white. It was a color. Why am I Mr. Pink? Because you're a faggot. It's great. So good.
Because you don't tip.
That's right. What do you mean you don't tip?
Yeah. Can I be Mr. Purple? You're not Mr. Purple. Mr. Purple's working another job. You're Mr. Pink.
Like, I pick the names around here. Everyone's fighting over who gets to be Mr. Black.
Mr. Black. Tried it once. Didn't work.
Doing a reference. How do you know you're old? When you fucking make a Rat Pack reference. And then
laugh and point out that that Peter didn't get the reference, because remember, he goes, why did he call us his pack of rats?
Yeah. And then it's like they did it because they wanted to be funny with rats later in the movie, and it's like, this doesn't really work, guys. Know your audience. It's 2024, for fuck's sake. Like, we got it, but we're old. This is supposed to this should be a reference that works with the entire audience, not just the few old fuckers who saw this. I like the effects of it, the practical effects. The amount of like blood and people exploding and stuff like that didn't bother me. The the puncture wounds, biting, the kills, they all worked. It was fine. I think my biggest problem with the movie is, one, Melissa Barrera. I think I like her journey, but it's weird. I like that it's there. It's just a weird one where it's just like, her journey is to learn to be, that it's okay to be this kid's mother despite the mistakes that she's made. Okay. Not entirely sure, though, how surviving a night in a vampire house got her to that point. It seems like they wrote the movie and then somebody read the script and went, this isn't about anything, right? And the screenplay writer went, well, it's about a vampire biting people, and she's a ballerina. Get it? It's fun. Like, yes, but your movie has to be about something. What you wrote is a sketch. So they threw in the thing about the mom, and it's like, none of that really connects here. I mean, you could somewhat, I guess, maybe draw the weak parallel between Abigail trying to get her father's attention and doing all of this to, gain to be validated and all of that, to be loved. And this mother like struggling with, like, I'm not good enough to be a mom to my son. It's a little tortured and a little weak. But it's there, and I at least give the movie credit for trying. I might have more to say once Robert starts, and I can kind of piggyback on some of the stuff he said. But one of the other things that really bothered me in this was Kathryn Newton's costume. Like, and I'm having a real problem with this in a lot of these movies. I brought this up when we talked about Expendables 4. Like, you're sending people in on a you know, a military mission of sorts.
I have a, if you don't want to reference Expendables 4, your daughter decided to start like burning me an effigy when I commented on the stupidity of the outfit worn by the ethnic discount Harley Quinn in Mission Impossible Dead Reckoning Part 1.
Right. It's like you're sending people. This is supposed to be like a covert ops team, essentially, like kidnapping this kid. One of them was in sweatpants, which didn't bother me until I noticed it. I was like, it's an odd choice for, you know, but okay, but he's like, he might as well have been wearing Zuba pants. Fine, whatever. He's the muscle guy, so he has to wear the muscle costume. The fuck was Kathryn Newton wearing in this? She looked like
she's a rich girl who's basically doing this for the kicks and the thrills and
yes, that's the exact line from the movie. My point is, you don't dress like you're at the fucking goth club when you're on a mission.
When you're a spoiled, rotten rich kid who doesn't realize the, you know,
no,
exactly
you do when
what
the costuming is asinine. It was like I'm bringing it up because it took me out of the movie, and I'm not gonna sit there and accept it. Like, these people are there to, you know, to be professional criminals.
Hang on, a little bit like a little bit. You know, what happened with her is like, okay, so she's what did you just like plug goth schoolgirl into a prompt generator or something?
Like the costume designer just did everything with AI.
Okay, so fishnets, disconnected sleeves, bad boots, bad tattoos, and black and yellow plaid skirt. Right? We're doing this right.
Yeah, and so here's the thing: it's like if Alexis wants to argue with me, it's like, but she's the girl that stays in the van, so she doesn't have to.
No, I'm going to argue about disconnected sleeves.
My point is, like,
she's nothing wrong with them. I'm just saying.
I've been wearing those forever.
Yeah, I don't care if you wear them. You're not trying to kidnap a woman. They're trying to kidnap a little girl. Like, Melissa Barrera was about the only one, and maybe the Marine guy was about the only one dressed for the job. You know, again, I go back to the Reservoir Dogs. Like, we're going to rob a bank, and so they all have to wear suits. Everything. So I keep bringing up Reservoir Dogs because it's a great. What Quentin Tarantino does with the movie is that it looks at the details of a bank robbery and goes, why do we do these things? And it kind of talks about it throughout the movie. They're all in suits because they all have to be nondescript. So when people are questioned about who robbed this fucking bank, the white guys in suits. Like, okay, well, that doesn't help us. And I wish more people, if you're going to do heists, if you're going to do jobs, if you're going to do crimes in movies, whether it be horror, comedy, romance, whatever, maybe go back and watch Reservoir Dogs and see what they're doing, because this movie forgets what these characters are supposed to be doing and just goes, kind of what you said there, Alexis, is like, okay, well, we have a rich girl who's just doing this for kicks, so we'll make her look all gothy and like she just got out the club. Like, why? Why would you do that? It's like a small thing, and probably most people are like, why is he making a big deal? It's because it takes you out of the movie, and if you're taken out of the movie 5 minutes into it, it's not good. So you let stuff like that go, and the movie just becomes like, all right, now we're just waiting for the vampire to start killing people, and she does it, what, 30, 40 minutes into it?
It takes
a while.
That actually brings up a question I want to ask you guys. This is someone's been talking about this on another video I watched. So yeah, we have a handful of scenes where it's clearly Abigail. She's screwing with them. She's making noises. The doors are creaking open, and you got the characters running around going, "Well, what the hell's going on in this house? Why? You know, what's happening? What the hell's? You know, it's like, is this the killer?" Valdez that we've heard these rumors about. But of course, since we've seen the trailer, we know it's Abigail. We know she's a vampire. Do you think this would have been better had the trailers not revealed that Abigail was the monster who was going after them, who was, built up more of the suspense?
My problem is, maybe back in the 70s, you could have gotten away with it. It's hard to get away with that magic trick now in 2024 when we can all see behind the curtain and see what the magician's doing.
Much as it would have worked for, like, again, the tension building in the beginning of the movie, I said the same thing when we talked about the trailer for Trap. Like, you have to give up part of the conceit because your twist is so painfully obvious, it's almost disingenuous to hide it.
Yeah. I almost wish, to Robert's point, that they had started maybe with Dracula and the daughter, and then flash to, just say up front she's a vampire. Because then the audience knows something in movie that the characters don't know. And so the whole
dramatic irony like that works better.
Because like Melissa Barrera, that Abigail's the vampire. The first time Melissa Barrera is in there, she's trying to bond with the child. And and so there is a little bit of tension of, ooh, is she gonna bite her now? But on the other hand,
says the line, "I'm sorry for everything that's gonna happen to you."
Every time she stuck the fucking pinky out, I was like, oh, she's gonna bite that pinky off. That pinky's gone. But you need it. You need to try. I don't know. I'm gonna keep going with this. But
not really. No.
Well, I'm talking to you.
Was enough.
So you know that it's going to take a while for this to start, and she's not going to start with Melissa Barrera. But it would have been interesting if you knew in movie that Abigail was already the vampire, and she is like, I am just going to bite the fuck out of the first person I see. And then the first person you see is Melissa Barrera, and you're like, oh no, she's going to get bitten. And then she doesn't. You're like, oh, release the tension and just keep amping it up until we get to where we get to in the movie. All right. So yeah, I'm kind of with my son. It was okay. I mean, I had a fun time, but when I get to my top 10 for the end of the year, this is going to be somewhere safely in the middle. It's like the worst thing I've ever seen. It's not the best thing. It's just kind of meh. Bad, Robert.
Yeah, this is fine. This is a good time at the movies. Not going to complain about it like that. There's some stuff that doesn't really hold up under scrutiny, and I think ultimately this movie has a mild pacing problem. There's a couple of different scenes that just feel weird. They feel like we added this to pad the runtime.
I was thinking this needed to be Venom Let There Be Carnage length, 90 minutes tops.
You could have shaved this a fair bit. I mean, there's a whole scene where, like, when puppeting Sammy, there's a dance number that just is utterly unnecessary to anything.
That was a note.
Again, it's just not necessary. The other times when she's leaning into the, I do the ballet thing while I'm killing all you because I am superior to you and I like playing with my food, it works.
I did like the scene of her dancing with Dean's headless corpse.
Oh, that was great.
Good. Yeah, that was very good. Like, there's a lot of good stuff here. It's almost unfortunate that there's so much good stuff because it means that some of the stuff that doesn't quite work, we just kind of hand wave because, okay, yeah. And hand waving the stuff that doesn't quite work because there's a bunch of stuff that does ultimately leads to a fairly forgettable product. And that's kind of what we've got here. Again, the lot of blood, big fan, a lot of explosions when people die. I'm down. I'm like a quarter gorehound. I'm good with all of this. Give me more. I think my other if I had a big disappointment with this movie, there's a couple of things. One, again, there's a few stretches in like the middle half that are they just don't resonate all that well. They lose some momentum. Frank's heel turn, I'm torn on it because it's perfectly in character. It feels like somewhere in the development of this story, they decided we're not going to kill the kid, so we need some other big bad to face off with at the end.
Thank you, because you brought up a point that I actually did want to touch on. That third act seemed like it got rewritten again, added on, thrown in the toilet, rewritten again. Like, it's like they didn't know how to end the movie. It's like we have a really fun concept here with Dracula's daughter's a ballerina, so a little dainty ballerina girl is killing people. Great, love it. What's your ending? She kills them. You got it. No, like, first of all, we need her for the sequels if this makes money. So you can't kill her. All right, it'll be the shitty cop. The cop is the bad guy. The drug addict is the good guy. Good. It's 2024. That works. Here's the problem. It does if we got there a lot faster, a lot cleaner, a lot slimmer, and we lose Dracula at the end. I can't stress this enough. Once this movie came up, this is not about Abigail anymore. This is about Dan Stevens versus Melissa Barrera in a fight to the death. And between the two women, because this is 2024, the two women take out the guy. Cool. I'm with you, 2024. And then she's like, all right, Brotherhood of the Sisterhood.
We can see the light dying behind your eyes. When you say that much, for the record.
Okay, so the Sisterhood of the Traveling Pants wins. We got it. And then that's it. She's like, you may go now. You have done well for me. And then Melissa Barrera leaves, end credits. Lobster. Good. That last bit where we have to have Dracula in there for good fucking reason. Like, it doesn't undercut it or whatever, but it does drag out something that didn't need to be dragged out. All right, now I got that beast out of me.
No,
I hate to say it, actually, though. You guys bringing up the pacing does bring up something I almost forgot. Kind of bugged me when I saw this last night. Anyone else notice that they seem to be running on Majora's Mask timeline on how quickly they got bright and dark?
A little bit.
I mean, okay, I am willing to buy that. It's like, oh, sunlight kills it. Well, too bad. It's 3 o'clock in the morning. And then I'm willing to buy that by the time they get to the library, the sun has risen. But it's like way up high. So it must be at least like 11 o'clock in the morning, at least. And then when they get back to there, the sun is over there on the side of the wall. I'm like, and I'm seriously going, it's just like, I'm sorry. Literally, I was getting Majora's Mask flashbacks going, I'm sorry, did someone just play the Song of Time on the ocarina? Because I can't understand why it's suddenly sunlight. And then when Dracula comes in, it's like, it's almost dinner time. It's like, and it's dark again now. Okay.
Yeah. The lack of continuity, the lack of consistency with the passage of time is an issue here as well. I think my last thing is, if you're going to do, if part of what you want to do is, this is clearly, this is Dracula's kid, so our Dracula stand-in will show up at the end of the movie. Well, one, that's not fully necessary. Lazar works well as a shadowy figure that we just understand, like, okay, this is the biggest, baddest vampire ever. Cool. When you then say, like, no, he's going to be here, then by the time someone says they're going to be here, the character has to show up at that point, right? Like, that my issue is, like, if you, one, you didn't need to, and two, if you are going to have him show up, that's got to be kind of a big deal. And unfortunately, when Lazar does show up, boy, is that a damn squib. It's just, it's a little bit of CGI going on in the face for Matthew Good, who is not who I would have penciled in this role anyway if I was casting.
Got it. I thought it was de-aged Jeremy Irons, and all I could think about was, what are you doing here, Jeremy Irons? A very brief cameo.
I seriously thought it was de-aged Gabriel Byrne.
Yeah, there's a lot of people this could have been. And it's a really unfortunate note to end the movie on, because a lot of the rest of the finale, it more or less works. The fights are fine. How they win is ultimately fine. And then just for some reason, I mean, if you could have gotten like a really cool actor to be in that role for a brief cameo, it might have worked. Unfortunately, they couldn't, so they got the guy they got, and it just doesn't work. It just doesn't really work. And it's unfortunate, because that's one of the lasting impressions, is a sequence that just fell a little bit flat.
If you could pick any actor to play Lazar, who shows up at the end, who would you pick?
Oh, boy. There's a bunch of like pseudo fantasy casting, but I don't know how like viable it is. I mean, the joke was we were referencing before was Gary Oldman, because he played Dracula before, and Gary Oldman is awesome. If you wanted to go with something slightly more realistic, what would be a good one?
When I saw him and when I saw the trench coat, my mind immediately went to David Tennant.
That's a thought.
Well, David Tennant probably makes a good Dracula. All right,
I would have popped for Robert Englund, just because he hasn't been a vampire before.
All right. With that said, here comes the money.
We're in the money. We're in the money.
All righty. On a budget, I started to say this before, on a budget of $28 million, this thing made a comfortable $15.2 million. So I think this will be profitable. And, I want to give this movie praise and applause and tell it it's a good boy. You made it for less than $50 million. You're probably going to turn a tidy profit. Good for you, Universal. And not everything has to be $200 million goddamn dollars. Make a reasonably budgeted movie, make a profit. Who'd have thunk it?
Yeah.
As of April 21st, 2024, Abigail has grossed $10.2 million in the US and Canada and $5 million in other territories for a worldwide total of $15.2. In the US and Canada, Abigail was released alongside the bombing Ministry of Ungentlemanly Warfare and Spy X Family Code White. and was projected to gross 12 to 15 million from a little less than 4,000 theaters in its opening weekend. It made 4 million on its first day, including 1 million from Thursday night previews. It went on to debut 10.2, finishing second at the box office behind Holdover Civil War. Can we give a tiny round of applause here for War, baby? Woo! Go, little movie, go.
I was going to say, can we have a moment of silence for Henry Cavill's theatrical career?
Hang on. I'm actually not blaming this one on Henry Cavill. There's an argument to be made about how good of a leading man he is. And I think that's a discussion that we'll have next week when we talk about that movie. Really what this should be is the death of Guy Ritchie.
Yeah.
And it pains me to say that more than a lot, but his last 4 movies have just not done it, man. You had, because we talked about the Jason Statham one, right?
Right.
Then he did The Covenant, which failed miserably. It's not necessarily a terrible movie, but you know, when Jake Gyllenhaal is your lead, it's not going to go well. It just isn't. And he had then Operation Fortune, which just like was so botched as a release.
Yeah, well, it was delayed a bunch of times because of the war in the Ukraine and because of COVID and because it was dark out and there were wolves after us and because of the light of the moon. There was all kinds of reasons why Operation Nom de Plume was delayed from, you know, when it was shot back in 1975. So
and now we arrive at a movie that I've heard nothing but good things about with Ministry of Ungentlemanly Warfare.
Well, can I say the fact that you heard something about the movie says a lot, because I haven't seen a trailer for this at all.
I've seen one. I saw one trailer. I forget what movie I saw it in front of. But once again, like, it's not that Guy Ritchie is out here making terrible movies. I think that would be a stretch, but man, nobody's marketing these things.
Yeah.
Like, there's no budget spent on telling people, hey, go see The Gentleman. Which is Mark's favorite thing ever, because Hugh Grant is just a little bit gay.
Uh-huh.
And there's no money spent on any of these.
I was just watching Snatch the other night. I own that on DVD. I love that movie. It's a great movie. And I'm sitting there going, like, I miss when Guy Ritchie was actually worth talking about.
Okay, stop for a second. Stop. Guy Ritchie makes perfectly good films. I don't know why no one's marketing them and then therefore no one's seeing them, because when they make it to streaming, people do watch them. You know, people talked about The Covenant well after it was out of theaters. So it bombed financially, but people watched the thing once they didn't have to pay for it anymore. You know
what the last Guy Ritchie film to make money was, right?
Aladdin?
Yeah.
Okay. So what Aladdin was, what, 2018? 2019? I thought Lion King was 2019.
I don't know. Dude, at that point, Disney might have been releasing 2 a year.
I'm thinking because I know when we reviewed Aladdin, I think I was living at my in-laws, and that was after I'd had cancer treatment. So
okay, it might have been 18, but it's one of those two.
It's 20.
I just remember Aladdin because that was the one where I had to join you guys late because I had to go hide in the basement because of a tornado siren.
Yes. So anyway, that was the last one that made money in an era where films were making money. So I can't. It's like some of what's happened to Guy Ritchie is just the state of the theater, and I think us like film nerds have a liking for Guy Ritchie and an appreciation for what he does. But because he hasn't done a Sherlock Holmes in a while, I think people have forgotten. And this is partly on Guy Ritchie.
Oh man! Hey, Mark, you want to know the other movie of his we've seen and reviewed? We watched his King Arthur adaptation that was just terrible.
Yeah. Yes, the one where bows and arrows are used as machine guns.
No. That was the Robin Hood adaptation.
Oh, yeah, that's right.
Didn't he also do that?
No, that wasn't
somebody else.
Who directed that piece of shit?
Oh, we lambasted him. Hang on, I'll find it.
Anyway, so the point I'm trying to make about Guy Ritchie is, to Alexis's point, he does Aladdin, it makes money, but that's partially because it's Aladdin. He does
Ridley Scott.
Oh shit, that was a Ridley Scott.
No, sorry. Other Robin Hood movie was Ridley Scott. That was he did the one with Russell Crowe.
Right. That was also a bad movie.
Why can I not find this one? Was it 18? Yeah, it was 2018. Okay. Otto Bathurst was the one who directed that one.
No idea who that is.
Now I remember why I was at my in-laws.
Peaky Blinders.
I think that it was over the summer. and it was while I was living there because my in-laws were up in Europe somewhere. They were on a trip, so we were house sitting. That's why we were there. Anyway, my point is, don't totally blame Guy Ritchie. Some of this is the projects that he takes, and so like I don't want to beat up on a director who's out there doing his own thing, making new movies, and people. He just works in a market that doesn't appreciate him right now. But by the same token, you do one for yourself and you do one for the business. He hasn't done one for the business since 2018. There have been no Sherlock Holmes movies. There's been nothing else since Aladdin like that. He's doing a lot of shit like, The
Covenant.
Well, I would say we liked, what was it? Man of War or whatever
that
was like one of our favorite movies of that. Yeah, now I can't remember the name of it. But it was.
He can't blame Madonna for his failures anymore.
poor woman alone. She looks like Ray Liotta now.
No, I was just talking about the
Don't say Ray Liotta like that.
I can complain about Swept Away.
Yes, you can.
The movie was terrible.
So that Jason Statham movie that we reviewed, I think it was summer of 2021, Robert. It was like the only movie we liked that year. That was good.
Up there because everything else got either pushed to streaming or like that. That was one of the first movies with theaters back open, if memory serves.
It was it was like strictly theatrical exhibition. It wasn't day and date.
Yeah.
It's hard, and I feel bad for Guy Ritchie because people should appreciate what he does more than they are currently. It's just he's in a market where if you're not doing events, you're doing a movie that goes straight to streaming. And this guy, God bless him, he's fighting to put small movies back into theaters, and he's getting no help from anybody. That's the tragedy of this, guys. You're beating up on poor Guy Ritchie. This isn't his fucking fault. He's sitting there doing his, God's work, and he's getting no help from the studios he's working with. Getting no help from us. I mean, like, we're going to talk about his movie, but I'm going to tell you right now, like, our numbers for Damn You Hollywood are some of the best on this network, which is, not this, like, that's great,
Low
well, yeah, it's like at least those are double digits.
go be on somebody else's podcast. So my point being, like, we'll review his movie and we'll talk about it. And I can tell you, almost nobody's going to give a fuck. I don't know. I also thought that about The Beekeeper, and that was like 200 some odd views or some shit. Anyway, I'm
convinced that was a bunch of people looking for the movie still.
I'm convinced they were just legit looking for Beekeeper videos. Why do we keep landing here?
Because apiary.
All right, so yeah, I got off on a tangent there because I said yay for Civil War. So here's the weekend that was. In its second week, Civil War is still the #1 movie in the world.
You know what? Much as we were kind of nonplussed by it,
yeah,
I imagine its bigger fall is going to come this week. Here's my hunch about how Civil War went. How this is going to go. Opens okay. There's a bunch of people who are waiting to see how it played. Right? There's a bunch of people going.
Yeah, you're saying what I said last week, buddy.
Yeah, a little bit. But like, there's a bunch of people going. Maybe I'll be interested in this. Maybe I won't. Let me see. Let me talk to people. Let me see the reviews. And everyone kind of went, it's all right. So now, second week, everybody goes, okay, I'll go see it now. Now it's going to drop a bit harder. I don't think it has a lot of rewatch value at this point.
I will also tell you that this weekend's not a great movie weekend. I know that.
No, we can see the numbers right here. It's not great.
Well, I was thinking about like the movie release schedule versus our schedule. What's coming out this weekend must be shit because we scheduled the Ministry of Ungentlemanly Warfare, which came out against Abigail, and we had a free week essentially, so we put it for next week because we like to talk Guy Ritchie stuff, and I want to support the guy. But the only other movie that's opening this weekend that I'm going to go see is Boy Kills World, and that's only because my kids want to go see it. Otherwise, I wouldn't care.
I think the only other movie that's coming out is Challengers, and none of us play tennis, so none of us give a shit.
No, there's another reason nobody cares about this movie. But I don't want to talk about it. Well,
you mean the fact that for some reason people in 2024 forgot that actors are actors?
Yep. Yeah, did you see that there was a thing on Zendaya's like something about like if I were any other actress, no one would ask me questions about kissing, but I'm me, and so suddenly they think that's an above board question. Like, you poor thing. I feel bad for Zendaya.
I'll care about Zendaya when she's in something I care about.
If I thought anyone gave a shit about Challengers and I could convince Rob to do it in the Clockwork Orange style, toothpicks in the eyes maybe, or I didn't like him as a person, I would have put Challengers on the schedule. But those But that's
not
that's
a darn
the fact
thing
of it.
stopping you from putting it on the schedule. I'm not going to review it, but
Then I don't want to do it, baby. No, I'd rather talk about Guy Ritchie and take my kids to go see Boy Kills World. I don't want to go see Challenger. I could give a shit less about that movie.
I don't understand. I don't know who wants to see like this. That the fact that the marketing of that is theoretically lurid sex and Zendaya.
I was gonna say
and tennis.
Who cares?
Theoretical throuple, cool. And I can tell you, like I said, I guarantee you, in certain segments of our population, with certain relationship dynamics, are interested in the movie, but not enough to where this thing makes money. And then all that's left is Zendaya fans. But most of them are like tween girls who are not going to be brought to go see fucking Challengers. So anyway.
I can't wait for her to. I can't wait for Zendaya to go away. Can I just be honest about that?
Okie dokie. Abigail debuted at number 2. Godzilla multiplied by Kong fell from 2 to 3 in its 4th week. Hey, I'm reading these right now. Ministry of Ungentlemanly Warfare debuted at number 4. And what comes up must come down. Poor Guy Ritchie. We knew him well.
Did we?
I still say poor Henry Cavill. We knew him well.
That, honestly, Cavill needs a better agent. Like the roles he's chosen, like again, the projects are more the problem than he is half the time.
Thank you. You said it, so I didn't have to. Everyone's pinning this on Henry Cavill. Like, first of all, nobody is a draw in Hollywood at this point. Nobody. Hollywood is barely a draw. So it's
not the truth.
So 20 years ago, every single one of these movies that Henry Cavill is in hits. 20 years later, post-COVID, post-change in theatrical exhibition, post-Office, post-Crunch Serial, he's struggling.
Hey, I just keep going back to the fact that he's in The Witcher. The Witcher's doing well. Everyone loves him in it. He says he's going to leave The Witcher and go do a Warhammer series, which we have not heard a freaking peep out of. And then he makes all these movies that it's like...
Hang on, a couple of things about that if you're curious about the behind-the-scenes drama of The Witcher. The showrunners suck. And the fact that Henry Cavill cares about the character and cares about the lore of the Witcher world and constantly going, maybe we shouldn't there's a slightly better way to do this. I'm not saying you can't do this, but the fact that he's constantly in dialogue basically with the showrunners and directors, and dude, he had to fight tooth and nail to get a scene where his character mourns the death of Roach.
All right.
Like they wanted to make that a joke. Like that's how stupid the people running this thing are. And he kind of went, you know what? This is not working. And I don't blame him. I wish the best for his Warhammer series, assuming the people who own Warhammer can stop stumbling over every predictable obstacle that you could throw at them at this point.
Yeah, it's like, I would love the Warhammer series too. You know what I'd love more? If we actually got some news on it.
I would like that as well. Hopefully we do get something. He's done the Enola Holmes.
Right now Warhammer is sitting over there with the Spawn movie.
Right. When there's actual news about it, we'll talk about it.
He's done the Enola Holmes thing, which helped. His Sherlock Holmes is great.
Oh yeah.
Actually, it's a shame that series is what it is.
Yeah.
You know what? He'd be a really good Sherlock Holmes. If
Spy Crime Family Code White
style series.
Debuted at number 5. First weekend, that's from Crunchyroll. Kung Fu Panda. Last week was 4. This week dropped to number 6. 7 weeks out. Ghostbusters, speaking of things that are bombing.
Boy, are we.
3 to 7. 5 weeks out. Dune Part 2, 5 to 8.
You're going to have to pay up on your bet there for the record about Dune Part 2.
Why? It's not going to cross $1 billion?
Yep.
Yeah, well, it's the only one making money right now. 8 weeks out, dropped from 5 to 8. Monkey Man dropped from 6 to 9 because people don't like culture. And The First Omen, where we just let that one pass right past us. Like, who gives a fuck?
For good reason.
Yeah. 3 weeks out, that dropped from 7 to 10. Hard Miles debuted at 16 from Blue Fox Entertainment. We Grow Now from Sony. That debuted at number 30. Stress Positions.
I gotta say, by the way, looking at all the re-releases, did you guys hear what's getting a theatrical re-release this summer for its 35th anniversary?
The Mummy?
No.
Well, that yes, but go on.
Phantom Menace.
That makes sense. I might take my kids to go see that.
Can we just take a moment of silence, please, for how dead the Star Wars brand is that we're now doing cultural revisionism on the Phantom Menace?
Yeah. Anyway, all right. Worldwide on the dime, we got Dune Part 2.
Dude, Dune Part 2 is not even gonna hit 750.
It's certainly going that way. Are we finally set for its release on streaming?
I don't think it matters.
No,
at this point, it's not getting another 60 million.
Well, no, I'm just asking because like I could have sworn I saw one of the headlines saying that Dune Part 2 was about to be available, and then, yeah, then
it probably is. Someone might have it,
and then it kills that dead. Coming in at 486 is Godzilla x Kong.
That's not gonna hit 550. I don't think.
I really think they need to just close the book on the MonsterVerse. Like, we're done here.
What else is there to do at this point?
We talked about this when we reviewed it. I was the only one who was advocating for another movie because I want to see Anguirus, Gigan, and Space Godzilla.
Every time Alexis says Space Godzilla, take a drink. Kung Fu Panda 4.
I thought you did that every time I said release Coyote versus Acme.
That too.
Take 2 drinks and punch yourself in the eye. Bob Marley apparently opened up at a bunch more theaters. I just noticed that on the previous screen. And the movies that don't suck and some that do just did a review on that. So check that out.
Isn't that also just? I thought that also just came to.
Available now.
Yeah, it's available.
Ghostbusters: Frozen Empires at 176. The goddamn Beekeeper hanging in there at number 6 at
152.
And rounding out our top 10 are Mean Girls, Madam Web, Argyle, and Exuma.
Are we gonna do? Are we going to do later in the year? Or it's like, and here are all the films that are doing worse than Madam Web, like we used to do for Morbius.
If it never gets out of the top 10, at this point, it's struggling.
At this point, we should be doing is here's all the movies doing worse than the Haikyuu release.
Civil War's at number 13 with 49 million. And
Civil War, do better than Night Swim at least, please.
Decent chance.
Monkey Man's at number 19 with 28 million. That's about it. And Abigail is sitting at 15, number 35 for the year so far. So, I mean, like I said, oh God, look at that for the Ministry of Ungentlemanly Warfare. You poor bastard.
Oh, that hurts.
That really does. So I'm hoping that some good word of mouth might help that one, but the number of people who are just going to decide to wait for that on streaming is going to be large.
That's the thing. I think, like, even though nothing is coming out this weekend besides, like, I guess Challengers, which I even forgot about.
No one cares.
Yeah, no one cares.
I only know about it because that's the one that they're spending all their money on the online advertisements.
Yeah,
right.
That thing, I get bombarded with ads for that on YouTube like crazy.
Well, that got delayed from last year because
I swear, if they had spent half as much money marketing Ungentlemanly Warfare as they have Challengers, it might have done okay.
That's true. There's some truth in that.
A couple of things to round out this discussion, and then we'll move on. So I know, like, the three of us, for a variety of reasons, don't care about Challengers. There's a market for it. There are people that are going to want to see this, like I said, whether they be people interested in throuples, people interested in tennis, or people interested in Zendaya. And I don't want to beat up on any of those people. They exist. It's fine. Here's the thing.
I'm okay beating up on them. Go for it.
That's fine. Beat them up on them on your own time. The problem with Challengers is that it was delayed from last year. So there was a hot marketing campaign for this originally, and this was raring to go. And then the strike happened, and they couldn't get Zendaya out there to shake her ass and look pretty. So they were like, well, fuck this. And they kicked it into this year. And I think it's one of the situations where I'm going to go back to that metaphor of kicking things. They kicked it. It went out of bounds. And now the football. I think they missed the boat on this. Like, well, now it's kind of like with the joke that we had about Morbius, where we saw in Black Widow, where we saw the trailer for that so many goddamn times because it kept getting delayed, both movies, that by the time we got to the movie, nobody cared anymore. So I think like first of all, they haven't cut a new trailer for Challengers since last year. It's the same stupid trailer.
Yep.
So even if you have people going to the movies and they've seen it, there's nothing new to get anyone's attention. It's the same trailer, and people zone out when you show them the same thing over and over and over again. So I don't know what else they're doing to market this thing. I don't know, like I know Zendaya's in the news right now talking about like, don't talk about me kissing people. I mean, I don't know. Maybe make Zendaya say something else stupid, and then maybe some people will pay attention. I don't know what else to do to get people to pay attention to this movie, but It's not looking good. And I'm gonna. And this is the last thing I'm gonna say, mostly for Robert's benefit. I'm gonna laugh when Boy Kills World ends up doing better this weekend than Challengers. So,
you know what? That might restore some of my faith in humanity.
Well, nobody wants that. Then what use would you to be to this podcast?
Only one way to find out. Let's restore it and see what happens.
Okay. All right. With that said, folks, here is the critical. Oopsie daisy. Here is the critical review.
Are you ready? No! I said, are you ready?
No, God! No, God, please, no! 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 No!
You know, for years, I had to battle an uphill struggle of you people commenting on me saying things are fine. I'm just saying, sometimes things are just fine. Sometimes the critics and the people agree. It's just fine. Things can be fine.
As a guy who constantly gets beat up for rating things as a 6.5 or a 7.5 out of 10, I have felt your pain for a long time.
So sitting firmly in the it's fine category at 85% fresh from the critical score, and then an 87 for the audience score. And then when we click in, okay, so all critics is 85, and then it drops to top critics is 77, which is still
about right.
Yeah, it's still fine. There was 27 fresh reviews and 8 rotten ones. So I like this new format. All right, so all audiences is 86. Verified audiences is 87. It's 250 verified. I can't talk. 250 plus verified ratings and 4.1 out of 5 stars. So everyone agrees it's great. Yeah, we're having a good time. Alrighty, let's find actual reviews. Alrighty, here we go.
Yeah, it's taken me a while to get used to the new layout for their.
I didn't realize there was a new layout until tonight, and it's like I'm struggling. For a minute there, I just thought there was something wrong with my screen.
Hey, look, Eric Estrada. Not that Eric Estrada. Boy, there's a reference that'll make us feel as old as talking about the Rat
I was gonna
Pack.
say, showing your age much. Jesus Christ!
What are you talking about? Eric Estrada had a role in the new Fallout series.
My mom was a giant fan of Chips when she was a kid, so I wound up watching a few reruns with her when I was younger, and I'm aware of his existence.
My daughter is more of a man than Lauren Veneziani from DC Film Girl.
I believe that.
Alisha Weir is completely terrifying fun in this campy horror thriller about a ballerina vampire.
She's not wrong.
She's not terrifying.
Yeah, she's not terrifying. She's as terrifying as Michael J. Fox was in Teen Wolf. Let's get the fuck out of here.
Okay, hang on. She's not that goofy.
Yeah, she is.
Yeah, okay. She's not holy shit scary, but for scenes where she's charging with the
I fucking shit myself to tell him Large Maud sent you. Okay, that's the bar you got to get past, and it doesn't get past that.
Just saying.
Here's my son in for a run-in.
I'm just saying. I never laughed at her.
If you did it in the bathroom, not in your pants, don't do that.
You're supposed to go to bed. Get out of here. My son insisting I don't shit myself on the podcast. And I say, you don't tell me what to do with my poop.
Well, also, he's a couple of years too late. Haven't you done that before?
Yeah, I have shit myself mid-podcast. I've died on a podcast, shit myself mid-podcast, been unconscious mid-podcast, fallen asleep on a podcast. Yep. Listen, if you're going to do that, Alexis, put a bag over your head and say, I'm so ashamed.
I need to get a paper bag and start.
If you need a prop.
Just go full Sylvester Jr. on this.
Perfect.
Oh, the shame of it all.
Yep. Oh, the shame.
No, I stand by. No, she's not terrifying, but for a little girl with crazy sharp vampire teeth, screaming, charging with glowing blue eyes, it looks effective. Okay, it's effective.
Adam Graham of Detroit News, top critic. Gorehounds will lap it up, and they have the right idea. Abigail is a bloody blast.
Not wrong. Mm-hmm. I'll say I got a real kick out of that particular, because that Woody Woodpecker cartoon that Sammy's watching at one point.
That's great.
Yeah.
That's one that I can. There was a time I could quote that.
Oh yeah.
Oh, there's a bit where he like gets the cat's tail and he puts ketchup all over it and he goes to. I've seen that one so many times. I do know the vast majority of it.
I'll tell you, Woody Woodpecker had some pretty like interesting imagery for for a little kids cartoon from back in the day.
Mm-hmm.
I think Satan must. I'll say I think Satan must be skating or ice skating to work because Robert officially knows more about a cartoon than I do. Because I don't watch Woody Woodpecker.
I watched it as a kid. I watched it as a kid, and there was some disturbing shit in Woody Woodpecker.
Yeah, there's that particular short was one when I was a kid. When my parents would plot me down with a VHS that was like, here's a bunch of collected short cartoons.
Oh yeah, you see, I had those too, but only Disney and Warner Brothers. My parents never got me the Fleischers.
So Woody Woodpecker.
I had the Looney Tunes, and then I had the Fleischer ones. So I've seen a fair chunk of Woody Woodpecker.
Woody Woodpecker is where I got. If Woody had gone to the police, this would have never have happened, which I say constantly, and I've said many times.
And like I said, I had the Disney ones. The one I watched all the time is the one where Donald and Goofy are lost in the Sahara Desert and start seeing just like a soda fountain out of the mirages and stuff.
The other one that comes to my mind constantly is the one with the magpies.
Yes.
And there's one that gets in the radio and is like, is there a magpie in your home?
Okay,
Don't
go out on a date. Wendy Lee, Zani, Shamil Shamazel of the Movie Couple had a really good time with this movie. This cast is phenomenal. Alisha Weir's duality is something to watch for. The first and second acts are solid. The third felt a bit convoluted. Oh, did it, madam? Nonetheless, this is a fun movie and must be watched with an audience.
Well, I didn't.
Are you new at this, honey?
That's
because that's okay. That's seriously
about as straightforward.
That sounds that comes across like a freshman entering journalism 101 who has never written a movie review before, handing it in to the editor, and the editor just going, "It's like, okay, this needs work."
Have you heard of compound sentences? Maybe.
That was great, Alexis. Well done.
Thank you.
The best thing you've said all podcast.
Oh, great. Thanks.
You're welcome. Compliment sandwich. Bill Ilberry of New York Magazine, Vulture, top critic. New York Magazine, former magazine. The amped up gore elevates the film's schlock value, but not its suspense and certainly not its potency.
Someone who clearly thinks the excess amount of gore must mean it's only a B movie. Yeah,
a little bit there. And by the same token, he's not terribly wrong, but there's some stuff missing from this one.
Here's one for Robert. Sarah Maznicki of Creepy Kingdom. Abigail serves as a tableau for the core cast and highlights the continued joy radio silence brings to the horror genre.
What's radio silence again?
The production company.
Oh, thank you.
It gets used as the catch-all for the two directors. They've done some stuff in the if you've watched the VHS horror anthologies, they've done several of the shorts in those as well. So
Laura Clifford of Reeling Reviews, the same hunted in a locked manor house scenario as Ready or Not. Ugh. This time with a supernatural element and the hunted, the majority, and while it eventually runs out of gas, its cast, especially young Alisha Weir, helps us get over the tedious bits.
Okay, you clearly gave that while you were doing speech to text while you were driving on your mid-morning commute.
Yeah, that definitely needed an editorial pass functionally, but and as far as the meat of the review, it's not terrible.
Damn You Hollywood's been going on since 2014, and we've struggled and we've worked hard and we try to give you elevated, ascendant content. And, we're on YouTube. We've been on YouTube since 2021 in video form. And, we're really trying to get on Rotten Tomatoes. And here lies Joseph Robinson of Fish Jelly Films, who's on YouTube and gets to be on Rotten Tomatoes. Well, we toil in obscurity. And I tell you, life ain't fair, Robert Winfree of the Screaming Boy podcast.
I'm actually going to look this guy up. I want to see how many followers he has.
So Joseph Robinson of Fish Jelly Films on YouTube. Abigail's overly long runtime may have been forgiven if it hadn't squandered the fantastic inherent potential of a ballerina vampire. What the fuck more were you going to do with this?
Yeah, I mean, in all sincerity, what else were you going to do with this?
I like this one. Susan, I'm going to let you have your say. Just give me a second.
No, I was just going to say Fish Jelly Film Reviews, 35.5K subscribers.
Okie dokie. I think we actually have more subscribers than... No, wait, no, we don't.
In order of magnitude more than ours.
Yeah. Susan Kamyab of This Chick's Flicks.
No, Mark, just don't.
I didn't purr. You told me not to purr, and I Popeyed.
You thought about it.
I Popeyed. You can't tell me not to Popeye. You said don't purr, Popeye instead, and I did.
What you did there was a badly starting car. You got halfway. He
did a speed buggy.
You got stuck halfway between a purr. You started to purr, remembered you weren't supposed to, tried to switch to Popeye midstream, and I don't know what happened at the end there.
Anyway, I did the drip. Anyway, it's very much Megan meets Ready or Not, just nowhere near as good. But if you're a fan of the horror genre, then Abigail is satisfying, mindless, bloody fun.
How do you get...
Simple.
Megan
the only
has
thing
nothing to do with this, other than little
she
girl.
remembers the Megan dance, and she saw the trailer where you see Abigail dance, and then she said, "Oh, 2 and 2 equals shoe."
That's about as far as it goes.
Speaking of 2 + 2 equals shoes, Jeffrey Harris, a 401 Mania, friend of the show. Abigail I did that at work today. I did a non sequitur, and they were like, "How the fuck did those things? Like, how did you get from there to there?" And I'm like, "I am the king of non sequiturs." Abigail provides a fun, fresh, and intriguing twist to vampiric horror thrillers. That's as basic as you get there, Jeff.
Not wrong.
Again, they pulled from his synopsis at the end there, I think, which, okay.
Frank Sheck of Hollywood Reporter, top critic. Vampire movies are, of course, a dime a dozen, but few are as gleefully anarchic as this one. Oh, give me a break.
No, I've seen much more. First of all, he was trying to go with chaotic, but decided to go with anarchy instead because chaotic doesn't sound... trying to sound smarter than he is.
Speaking of trying to sound smarter than he is, the former ex Mr. Alexis Hejna, Jeremy Johns.
Jeremy Johns. Ex.
Sure. Fellow, don't you try to screw me up with my tenses. How
dare you make sense with your gibberish?
Yeah, what he said. Fellow vampire fans, rejoice. This absolute blast of a film was made for you. Oh, fuck off, Jeremy Johns. Just fuck off.
He speaks for the vampire fandom now, Mark. He's deeply in touch with all the Twilight fans, I assume.
I hope. I hope. Well, he shouldn't be touching any Twilight fans without their consent.
Hey, Twilight fans are not the same as vampire fans. Go wash your mouth out with fake blood.
I'm just trying to mess with Jeremy Johns.
Best friend of the show, lover of Damn You Hollywood, supporter.
I don't think he even knows we exist. Mark's parasocial relationship with William Bibiani that's developing, that I applaud your commit. This is your performance art arc as far as William Bibiani goes. I don't know how you applaud it, Mark.
Lover from afar, Bill,
who doesn't know that he's in this relationship, clearly.
Top critic of the rap, sharply combines multiple genres and tropes, a few of which are an actual surprise, and sculpts them into a bloody blast of a movie. Well, I'm glad you had fun, William. You've had a rough year so far. Mm-hmm. And I just want things to be better for my good friend William Bibiani. When I commit to a bit, I commit.
You're going to show up to his funeral, and it's going to be very awkward.
I'd like to tell you a few things about my friend William Bibiani. Who the fuck is this guy?
No, you're going to be the one standing like a couple of yards back, dressed all in black, just looking out from under your sunglasses, just not saying anything, but raising all the questions.
Right. And the Damn You Hollywood special ed student, Travis Hobson of Punch Drunk Critics.
Not wrong.
Abigail's everything they do well all rolled into one extremely funny, absurdly gory, wildly entertaining package.
Feels a little bit like you read the PR bit.
All right.
This is a new one because you usually go for the ones that we disagree with, but you were reading most of the positive reviews.
I was just reading ones I thought were entertaining, would get a laugh out of you guys, or a comment, or I don't know. Just at this point, at this point, this bit is, we're so committed to doing the bit that I kind of just read whatever catches my eye, and whatever comes of it, comes of it. So, yeah. And whatever comes of it is the phrase that pays here on the Damn You Hollywood. So that brings us to the end of our review of Abigail 2024. Whoa. Yay! Tomorrow I've got no bananas. However, if you enjoyed the sexy repartee between myself and Alexis Hejna, stay tuned for a full hour of just the two of us. Talking about Alan Tudyk throwing himself to and fro for 8 episodes of Resident Alien. And that'll be Wednesday night at 9 o'clock. And because of technical difficulties, our Fallout show got rescheduled to Thursday at 9 o'clock. And theoretically, that is going to be Ronnie Adams hosting with Pat Mullen and Adam, formerly of the actual Screaming Boy podcast.
You see, you can't. You've used the joke too much. It doesn't work anymore.
Yeah,
you can't. No one can tell if you're being honest.
Well, who knows if the show will actually happen? We're like 3 weeks. This is, we've tried this now. So hopefully Ronnie gets his shit together and we'll actually have a Fallout show for you. If not, 3 strikes, he's out. I'm throwing it to Alexis. So here, Alexis, make something out of this. So
not objecting.
Hey, my son's been playing the Fallout. He hasn't watched the show, but he's been playing the Fallout game lately because it's getting a lot of attention.
Yeah, good question.
The one on Xbox. That's the answer to that question.
That's not helpful.
It's either Fallout 3 or New Vegas.
Oh my god, I don't pay attention to what my son plays on Xbox.
Could be 4.
I thought 4 was released for Was it released for Xbox? Because I know it was on PS4.
I fucking hate you both.
On PC,
you opened this can of worms, Mr. My son's playing Fallout.
I said a simple statement, and you nerds ran with it. Before I could catch you and stuff you in a locker.
See, this is what happens when I try to engage with you in conversation. Like I'm told people regularly engage in conversation. You say something, I try to ask a question about the thing you just asked.
No, 2 hours ago, I asked you if we talk about Scream Queens, and you were like, "No, fuck Apple's bread." I'm like, "Okay, I can't stand you." 2 hours later, you would like to get engaged in a long, extended discussion of Fallout for no good reason. No, stay with me, not where you want to go.
You brought it up. I just asked a follow-up question.
And for the record, if you're going to make comments about Fallout, you don't say stuff is in a locker. You say stuff is in a vault. At least get your vernacular right.
If anyone punches Alexis, I will give you $1.
Well, thank God none of you jackasses live near me.
I know one jackass that does, and he'll do it for free. Anyway, speaking of paying women for free, Sons of Anarchy season 3 this Monday, so a week from tonight. That'll
be your favorite season.
Oh, is it? Okay, cool. I haven't watched it yet. I had to finish watching Resident Alien first. We'll be reviewing Sons of Anarchy season 3 a week from tonight. It'll be myself, Jesse, and Ronnie.
Pretty sure 3 is when the neo-Nazis show up. So yeah, this will be your favorite.
Well, no, the neo-Nazis were in season 2.
Were they?
Yes, with Henry Rollins, and it was awesome, by the way. And then Damn You Hollywood.
Oh, right. 3 is when Harold Perrineau shows up, and
oh, cool.
I love him. He's a great actor.
Yes, he is. So, Damn You Hollywood will be on
3 or 4.
Tuesday to accommodate just Ronnie's schedule, who can only work on Mondays and Thursdays. So, we'll be discussing, just me and Robert, alone with our thoughts, the Ministry of Ungentlemanly Warfare. And then Thursday, May 2nd, because Sean is getting married in the month of June, we're moving all the Pride stuff to May. So, we kick off Pride Month with this special triple feature, which I know everyone will enjoy. The Adventures of Priscilla, Queen of the Desert, Tu Wong Fu, Thanks for Everything, Julie Newmar, and Hedwig and the Angry Inch. Guess the theme for this Pride show, everyone. Guess. Bet you can't guess. Guess. All right, Alexis Hejna.
I could guess, but I'd use a word that would probably make people unhappy with me.
Speaking of which, go ahead, Alexis. Show us where you're pissed from.
Okay, so yeah, Wednesday, Resident Alien Season 3. You get to see Alan Tudyk do more of his Law and Order impression, followed by on May 8th. Robert, will you still be joining David Wright and me to discuss Shogun?
Planning to start watching it soon. So yeah, that's still the plan.
Because, yeah, that was the reason we pushed it to the 8th, because you said you wanted to binge it, and the only other opening was, like, the day after it ended. I'm like, nah, Robert's not going to be able to binge it that quickly. Followed by on May 21st, we're going to be talking X-Men 97. It's going to be myself, again, David Wright, Jesse Starcher, and if he can actually convince his his boss to let him go at a decent hour, Mr. Dorian Price.
And then coming in June, Gravity Falls with Alexis and my son, the star of the network, the smartest boy ever, Jonas Radulich.
Nepotism is alive and well, folks.
Mark, he doesn't listen to the shows anymore to help him fall asleep. You're not winning any brownie points.
He loves me, and that's what matters.
Yes, it is, and yes, he does, and yes, it is. You don't need...
But everyone else must know.
Nothing about what you did contributed to that right now.
All right, not coming for a few months, but keep an eye out on our announcements, because we will also be reviewing The Boys Season 4 and House of the Dragon Season 2 coming out. Really excited about this.
Myself, Robert, and Jesse will be reviewing The Boys Season 4, and we're going to let Alexis come and play in our little Rascals clubhouse.
Why do
What does that make me, Darla?
Yes.
Great.
Why are you like this, Mark?
Okay, I think that's all the shows we've got coming up here in the near future, so I will go ahead and move on to the plugs that actually do pay my bills, and that is Honeysuckle Rose Creations, where fashion meets fandom at the intersection of geek and chic. Now, normally this is the busy part of our convention season, but we're actually taking things a little easy this year, and we will not be doing another convention until July, and that's going to be at the Greater Austin Comic-Con, where I just found out we're getting Weird Al Yankovic as a guest. Can't wait for that.
Everyone loves Weird Al.
Yeah, it's like Weird Al is right up there alongside Tom Hanks. It is impossible to hate.
No, it's easy to hate Tom Hanks.
Go sit in the corner.
Not saying I do. I'm saying it's easier than you think. Weird Al, no problems. Weird Al's the best.
Okay, well, in the meantime, like I said, even though we're not doing as many conventions right now this time of year, mostly so I can focus on better branding through TikTok, and I can stop getting into the grinding trap of just working so many conventions because, oh, hey, I've got time. It's a real thing that plagues convention vendors. Of course, you can still find us on Etsy and Handmade and Amazon. Our shops are fully stocked. After I just went through the hell of changing the titles of all of my Monopoly jewelry items on Amazon to board game token jewelry, because for some reason Amazon thought the name Monopoly could get us sued.
Only because Amazon is a monopoly and they're having a lot of cognitive dissonance.
They also told me to change everything that said Scrabble into wooden tile. It's like, you guys are not going to rest until I have completely shot my SEO in the foot. But it's still there. It may take a little time to search for it, but it's still there. And again, everything is also still listed on the Etsy store here. Got a lot of fun stuff, especially for horror fans. So if you like Abigail, you'd probably like a handful of things, especially our Clue jewelry. It's our #1 sellers. I love it when it says like 3 people have this in their cart. I'm like, okay, why the hell haven't they bought it yet? I don't know. So there's that. And of course, you can always find us on Facebook, Instagram, Twitter, Never Calling It X, and like I said, TikTok. Still working really hard to try to get better at actually doing at least 1 video a week.
All right. Well, speaking of Twitter, Robert's going to give it to you.
You know what? You've made that stupid joke so many times. I applaud you for finding at least a moderately entertaining way of doing it again. So, you know what? I'll give you a pass on that one.
Hey, you told me to stop doing the shows where you piss from thing, so now you got that one instead.
I told you to stop doing the Of the Screaming Boy podcast thing. I told you I'd given up on fighting the other battle. All right. You can find me covering mixed martial arts and professional wrestling over at 411mania.com. WWE SmackDown on Friday, UFC events on Saturdays. We had a week off this last Saturday, and then this coming Saturday, UFC on ESPN 55. Very uninspired card. We're back in the warehouse. Hey, Mark, did you hear that NXT is going to be in the UFC warehouse?
Get the fuck out of here. Why?
Because they're going to be running one there instead of in their warehouse.
But why?
I don't know. I forget which one of the upcoming NXT events. They're going to do it at the Apex Center.
But why?
Because it's there and the same company owns both of them.
Okay, Mindy, buttons, move it along.
I want to get to the bottom of Mark's but why train here.
I'm
just waiting for Mark to say, okay, I love you. Bye-bye.
I'm close. Listen, I understand, like, doing it at the warehouse in Orlando makes sense because that's where their training center is. Doing it in the warehouse in Las Vegas doesn't make any sense. You can't get an audience in there, so why would you do it?
Well, you could get an audience in there. The UFC doesn't organize it that way logistically. I imagine the WWE will actually get a decent... They can configure that to probably fit about as many people as they can at the PI. Just for the record, the UFC just doesn't.
But doesn't NXT just garnered a huge crowd WrestleMania weekend for their stand and deliver for their takeover pay-per-view?
Allegedly.
Sure. They didn't pay for 16,000 people, you psycho. So my point is, I mean, granted it was WrestleMania weekend, but still, like, I don't understand. Why would you do this? Like, I'm asking you like you did it.
Synergy, Mark. Synergy.
Everything about what you just said makes me physically ill. And I had
cancer. Yeah. You remember 4 years ago when you were doing that every other week, every other show?
Sir, my synergy made sense. It doesn't make sense to transport them from one fucking warehouse to the other.
You have a new audience in Vegas. The audience in Vegas is not the same as the audience.
Audience is television. They can shoot it in my basement. I don't have one. I live in Florida. If you have a basement, you have gators. But go ahead.
I'm just saying that's a thing that's going to happen in the near future, so be aware of it.
Everything is stupid. Go on.
Yes, it is. Well, hi. Been here for a while, Mark.
I'm here now.
So, again, I previewed the UFC on ESPN card. It's at the warehouse, at the UFC Apex facility. It's not great. The pay-per-view next week is not great. It's not bad. I actually defended a little bit because the new people, Mark, I hate the new people. The ones who come in and say, boy, UFC 301, that's the worst card the UFC's ever put on pay-per-view, right? And I had to take my hand and put it on the back of their neck and go, son, I lived through a pay-per-view headlined by Quentin Rampage Jackson and Matt Hamill for 3 rounds that was not that far removed from a pay-per-view headlined by Dan Henderson and Rashad Evans with a co-main event of Roy Nelson and Stipe Miocic. You don't know shit.
First of all,
this is not great. It ain't that.
I was gonna say there were worse cards, main cards from when I was watching. You know,
why you stopped watching?
Yeah, I was gonna say there's cards headlined by guys with their names are all consonants. Like, get the fuck out of here.
So UFC 301 headlined with a flyweight title fight between Alexandre Pantoja and Steve Erceg.
None of those are real words. Hey, you know what else was this weekend? No, not this weekend. It's next weekend. Is the next Canelo fight. He's fighting Jaime Munguia.
I don't care.
Okay.
I'll say that. Sorry, but this is why I tend to mute the network chat on weekends.
People like other things in cartoons, baby. It's okay.
Hang on. There's 3 Canelo fights potentially that I would care about. Jaime Munguia is not one of them.
Yeah, nobody cares about that fight. But Canelo still draws them, even if he fights Alexis Hejna. So I'm gonna watch it anyway.
He could fight me and probably still say, "Hey, pay me $20 million," and
they give it to him because his fucking pay-per-views actually draw money.
In theory. So yeah, that's what I've got coming up. I host the 411 Ground and Pound MMA podcast every Sunday evening. So listen to me talk about the wide, wacky, wonderful world of mixed martial arts. The episode this last week was less than an hour long, which is a first for me in a long time on that show. But when you've got 1 week card to preview and no major news to talk about, that's what happens. So
sometimes it's good to just get it over quickly. Then you can go on and do other stuff.
You keep trying to tell me that, and everything about every one of our interactions doesn't support it, though. Yeah, and then again, Mark mentioned it. Next Tuesday, we'll be back here to talk about the Ministry of Ungentlemanly Warfare, and we will yell at the people for being stupid and how this is why we can't have nice things, because when you get nice things, you don't go see them.
Yep. It's all your fault, ladies and gentlemen. I got my finger up high enough this time to be on camera. Not like one of these deals. Like I'm pointing and no one knows because the camera's here. Anyway,
you need to know where the camera is, Mark.
Yay! I've only been doing this for 3 years now. All right, folks. I've only been doing this for 3 years. Is the phrase that pays here in Damn You Hollywood. So thank you for joining us here on our review of Abigail, for Alexis Hejna of Honeysuckle Rose Creations, for Robert Winfree of Any Damn Podcast he chooses. I'm going to bed. Be well, be safe, and behave.